Hey everyone. So we're here for another episode of Mornings with Movers. Phil couldn't make it today. Cliff, I think he might be running late, but hey, the show must go on, so we're gonna keep it going. Again, I'm Dwight with Max Moving Training. We have Chris Hamilton with Hamilton Properties. So Chris, yeah, tell us about stuff. Tell us about what you've been doing, how the real estate market's been going in upstate New York.
Hey, how you doing, Dwight? Yeah, it's C Hamilton Properties. I've been doing real estate. I'm a licensed real estate broker, and I've been doing real estate for probably 20 years. I got my first real estate license maybe 40 years ago, and dabbled around and did a whole bunch of stuff up until I decided to just start doing it more seriously and doing some real estate investing and start my own little company. And I also have a construction background. I got a little construction company that I've had for quite some time. So those two things kind of merge together and help each other. And a little bit of a finance background. So yeah, that's it. I've been out here investing and being involved in real estate for quite some time.
Well-rounded,
Uh,
well-rounded.
yeah, I moved upstate New York maybe 17 years ago. I think my wife and I, we bought our first house back in the mid 90s in Long Island. And we were young and we had children and a mortgage and that type of thing. And one day we realized things were getting tight. And because of my construction background, I, um, I took our little basement that we had and turned it into a studio apartment and started collecting rent that really helped us out with our mortgage. And I think that's when the light bulb went off. Wow, this real estate and income thing, and is a real estate investment income. It's a real thing. It's really nice. And I think from then I had that in my head. And when we moved upstate New York, we came up here. We sold the house and we came up here and we bought a couple of properties. And of course, I had the real estate thing because I've had a real estate license for quite some time. And, I've been in this market for a long time. It's a good market to be in, especially for young people. The housing is affordable up here in upstate New York. You can move around and do some of the things that you probably wouldn't be able to do if you were in a big city. Every once in a while, they'll list the places, the cities in the United States where you can probably purchase the most affordable housing. Utica is usually on that list. It's getting a little different now. They just built a $600 million hospital up here, and it's caused kind of a real estate boom. You can't pick up those properties for 75, $80,000 like you used to 17 years ago when I got here. But
Gotcha,
of course,
gotcha.
that's the good thing about real estate. It's always appreciating, no matter what. Real estate's always appreciating.
Gotcha.
This is an interesting market in upstate New York. I don't know what, I know people, you guys are watching from all over the place, but upstate New York is an interesting market because, you have a lot of bangs and busts in cities, like right now in the real estate industry, a lot of people are upside down in their properties. It's really a bubble. A lot of these properties are overvalued, and it's getting to the point in a lot of cities where people pay too much for their homes and the value of those properties are starting to decline. Of course, if you're young and you got 10 years, you'll be all right. If you got 10 years, the appreciation in real estate, you'll be okay. But you're buying high, and they say, you know, buy low, sell high. So a lot of people got on, they came in on the high end. Um, but you'll be okay. In the long run, you'll be okay if you're young. Here in
Okay.
Utica, the market's interesting here in Utica because we don't, and the whole area, the whole Mohawk Valley and upstate New York areas is we don't really participate in any big booms. We don't participate in any, you know, like when my wife and I sold our property, it was probably 2005, 2006 when we sold our first home. And that was ahead of the real estate market crash in 2008. But
Hmm.
leading up to that point, our property was probably going up $30,000, $40,000 in value a year. And when the crash hit in 2008, people were upside down in their mortgage. The values of the property started to decline. And it started to decline rapidly when 2008 hit and the housing bubble bust. But
Okay.
here in Utica,
Well, let me
people,
ask you, Chris. Let me
yeah.
ask you. Well, we ain't gonna act like Cliff didn't just show up all late, but he looked a little under weather, so we're gonna forgive him today.
Mhm.
But no. So how has the real estate market been treating you since, I guess, last year with this mortgage hike?
Well, things have really slowed down. But like that leads me right into what I was going to say. Here in this area, upstate New York, we don't really participate in any real big booms. It's always a slow process. It's always slow, steady appreciation in the value of the properties. But when the bubble busts, we don't have that reversal. We don't have the market value of homes and real estate declining rapidly like you do in some other areas, some other states. So, we still have a steady, people are afraid of the interest rate. Yeah. The interest rates have really slowed the market down. A lot of real estate agents are going out of business because, of course, not only has the interest rate slowed the market down, there's not a lot of inventory, right? Of course, people were overpaying for these properties because there's very little inventory. And now with the interest rate high and people battling over a small amount of inventory, you know, it's slowed down. It's slowed down. A lot of real estate agents have gone out of business. A lot of real estate agents are doing a lot of weird stuff to make sales.
Gotcha,
A
gotcha.
real estate agent is supposed to be your advocate, but they're doing a lot of strange things to make sales that's not in the best interest of the people, particularly first-time home buyers. So, like I said, it's slowed down, but we are still having sales. If you have a decent property and you put it on the market here in upstate New York, the property will probably sell for more than you should be buying it for if you're purchasing a property. But we're still getting sales up here.
Okay.
But in a lot of areas in the country, it's very slow, and it's probably going to get worse throughout 2024 before it gets better. But because of the interest rate and because of the fact that the houses are overpriced, there's going to be a slowdown. It's going to become a buyer's market. If you hold out, probably by the end of 2024, early 2025. This year, we're supposed to have maybe three. The Fed actually announced 3 interest rate cuts for this year. So the interest rate is going to go down. It's going to become a buyer's market. Young people that have been holding out and holding their money to try and purchase homes, probably toward the end of this year, beginning of 2025. If you were able to hold on to your down payment and your closing costs, it would be a good time to jump in,
Gotcha, gotcha.
because there's going to be a lot of inventory coming on the market toward the end of this year and the beginning of next year because people are not buying these properties, and home builders are in trouble as well. Home builders have not been able to sell their properties because of the interest rate. So there's going to be a glutton of those properties coming back on the market. So, we may have a recession. I don't know too much about, whether they've avoided a recession with the interest rate hikes and all of the stuff that they do to try and prevent that from happening. But if we don't go into a recession, if you're positioned properly, even if we go in a recession, it'll be a great time to buy real estate. But I know in the context of the moving industry, I know there's not a lot of things moving, no pun intended. but I think towards the end of this year, when people start purchasing homes and in 2024, when people start purchasing homes, it's gonna get better. Not
Gotcha,
for
gotcha.
everybody, because we may be in a recession and inflation is not really going away. So you're still going to pay a high price for eggs and bread. But if you prepared yourself properly, it'll be a good time for buyers.
Okay. So Cliff, what's been going on? I feel like it's been like 2 weeks.
Yeah, doing well, my brother. And Chris, nice to meet you, and thank you for your insights too.
Same
I love connecting the real estate and the moving because everything goes hand in hand. So Thank you for that. And Chris, apologies for showing up late. Dwight, apologies. Yeah, I was finishing with a very insightful call.
Mm-mm-mm.
Went a
It'd be
little
like
long.
it'd be
Went
like
a little long.
and it'd be like 5 o'clock over by your way, and you on calls. Um,
Yeah,
but
I've
what?
been
Oh,
up since
geez, let him
2
off the
a.m. this
hook,
morning.
Dwight.
I'm excited. I'm
So
excited.
so I've been seeing photos of your stage work, Cliff. I guess what's new? What you've been doing? Because I know you ain't
So
focusing on the marketing no more.
yeah, I'm listening to. So I'm still doing the marketing, but I'm listening to a guy, Myron Golden, and he talks about offers specifically. And he said something that was absolutely fascinating to me, talking about microcosmic principles and how a principle in one arena applies to a principle in another arena. And so I'm listening to Chris speak, and what he's speaking on, it's so masterful because I can tell he's really an expert when it comes to real estate and looking at it. But that's also expertise in life, in business, and sports. It's all the same. They're all the same. It's just if you're willing to pick out the pieces that serve you on your journey. Like even when he said, hey, if you have the time, you can play this game. If you don't, you're in trouble. And all those little things, the business principles, I love understanding business and really comprehending it. And as I'm looking at it, I'm so grateful to be around experts like you guys so that I can constantly digest, learn new things, and start applying it.
No, that makes sense. No, definitely makes sense. And I think, like I said, I know like Chris said, the moving industry is at a halt right now. And we know that it's at a halt right now because
Yeah.
people aren't trying to sell their properties. They're trying to hold on to whatever they can hold on to, hoping that the interest rates drop eventually. So hopefully, towards the end of this year or a little before the end of this year, the industry starts to see that grip release a little bit because a lot of people didn't make it through last year, let alone making it through 2 years.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I think it's gonna get a little. I think it's gonna get a little harder before it gets better. But like you just said, Dwight, and Cliff, if you positioned yourself, to hold out, until the next coming year, put a little money aside to make some moves, you should be okay. As far as the moving industry is concerned, I know that the storage, like this, and next weekend, we're gonna go and get some stuff that my mom put in storage. And when we were looking for that storage bin a couple of years ago, we couldn't find one. We couldn't find storage units. We couldn't get storage units. They were overwhelmed. And now you can call and you can get a storage unit. People are sitting tight in their homes. People who got a 3% interest rate. A couple of years ago, you could get an interest rate to buy a house for 2 or 3%. Nobody's willing to give up that 3% interest rate to go into a 6-7% interest rate
not
to
at
buy a
all.
home. So they're sitting tight and they're doing the construction on their homes, doing their bathrooms and doing their kitchens and but as this they're not putting it, of course, so they're not putting their stuff in storage, they're not moving their stuff, so I think as this thing loosens up in the next year, you guys are going to get busy. I think it's going to get busy because people are going to really, I think a lot of people have stockpiled savings. I know they say recently I heard a report where they said the rate of savings among Americans was really high during the pandemic. People didn't have things to do and they were saving up their money and they had all of this money and they had it all, piled up. But then soon as they were able to get out, they started taking vacations, and doing all kinds of stuff, buying stuff they didn't need, cars and all this type of stuff. But the people who kept that money and they held out, they're waiting to make moves. And I think it's going to be a huge bang with the people who kept that money toward the end of this year.
Yeah, and I was telling people about the stimulus check, and I was like that, I wasn't a fan of it at all, just because I know that if anybody gives you money, they're going to want to collect it some way, shape, or form later on. And I think the one reason they was giving the stimulus checks was because they needed to keep money in circulation.
Yeah.
And as soon as, people started getting it, started spending it, or that issue where people were being paid to stay at home instead of going to work.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
were giving people this money and people weren't in a position, they weren't able to save it. I mean, a lot of people started little businesses. We were stuck in our homes, it was a pandemic. So I remember my brother was on unemployment because they closed his business down and he was getting his regular unemployment plus $600 a week. He was making more staying at home than he would make if he had gone to work. And he was able to stockpile that money and save it. So people stockpiled money and the savings rate was astronomical during that couple of years. People were really saving up their money.
I think
But
it
then
was
when they
hard
were,
for employers around that time because
it's
people
hard
didn't
for
want to work.
employers. They're still trying to get people to come. And the unemployment rate is low. People have jobs. People have two jobs. The unemployment rate is still low. That's the problem with inflation. So many people still have jobs and they're still out there spending that money that they saved up. Plus, they're working and they're spending that money. And the reason interest rates are high is because of the inflation. They raised the interest rates so that they could try to they really need people to be unemployed to help beat down the inflation. They need people not to have jobs so that they can't spend money. So, it's supply and demand, right? If everybody's got money and they try to buy something, it's going to cost everybody more. So they got to
Yeah,
take money out of the economy.
it's
So
weird. It's
yeah.
weird though, because you think, okay, well, hey, in New York State, they were supposed to hit, at this point, they should be at $15 for minimum wage for all of New York. And, at the end of the day, like none of these jobs are hiring worth, their pay rate that they're trying to pay you is not worth it. So unemployment should be, where it's at right now, because obviously these jobs aren't paying you to do nothing. You know,
Yeah.
I seen a store manager position like at U-Haul or whatever the case is, and I was like, oh, okay. They should be paying something because they got to look over people, they gotta make sure the shop goes well. Oh yeah, for a store manager, you get paid $18 an hour. Like,
Well,
what is that?
well, that's $2 above what New York's minimum wage is. And so nobody's going to pay you more than they have to pay you. And there's plenty of people out there that will take that $18 an hour job. And that's why unemployment is so low, because people are taking those jobs at every level. At every level, people are taking those jobs, and that's one of the reasons why they're letting all these migrants in, because the cost of living for us is high, but you come in from someplace where you're making $5 a day, $18 an hour is a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons. I mean, there's a whole lot of other political reasons for them letting all these migrants in, but one of the reasons is they need cheap labor, and they know that we know what things cost here in the United States and how difficult it is to live off of $18 an hour. But if you walk in, 300 miles to get somewhere where you think the streets are paved with gold, that $18 an hour looks pretty damn good. And so that might be contributing to inflation too, because you're bringing in people that have to start from scratch. They need beds, refrigerators, food, bread, all of this stuff. And you need people to stop spending money to beat down inflation so that they can lower the interest rates. You need people to stop spending money. And I think they've gone too far with the increase in the interest rates and how long they've kept them high. So I think it right now it looks like we're doing well. I think the gross domestic product came out where we're still spending money at a high level. Like our gross domestic product is still high.
Well, that's because
And
they keep raising everything up.
well, that's because we keep spending money. We keep spending money. The people keep spending money. We had a stockpile of money, and now people are using their credit cards to spend money. Now they can't stop themselves. Now we have one of the highest credit card debt levels in this country than we've had in quite some time as well. People just spending money. So they need people to stop spending money. But I think that they've gone too far because people now have spent up most of their savings, not the smart people, but people have now spent up a lot of their savings, and they're using credit card debt, so they're going into credit card debt. And when the interest rates go up, it goes up on your credit cards as well, right? Those are variable rates. So now you're paying more money back to the credit card companies. So it's really a false look that we're getting right now, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's a false look. I think we are headed for a recession. I think they kept the rates too high, and it looks like they need to keep the rates high to take money out of the economy. But in essence, people are going into debt at this point, and it's going to be a big. That's why I said a lot of real estate's going to start coming on the market. It's going to be it's for the people who are not prepared. There's going to be a bad recession, I think, towards the end of this year, the beginning of the next year. But for the people who are, the people who are ready to take advantage of that, unfortunately, there are people positioned to take advantage of, what's getting ready to happen. But I think the Feds went too far in trying to quell inflation, that they've probably made the recession it's going to be a little bit worse than, it could have been.
Gotcha. So have you still been seeing a lot of volume on the MLS listings?
No, there's no inventories. There's still no well, in my area, it really is relative to the area that you're in. Here in upstate New York, there really is not, because there's really no inventory still here. People are, you still might get into a battle over a property that comes on the market in upstate New York. If you have a decent property and you put it on the market now, back before they raised the interest rates, literally before they raised the interest rates, I listed a property for $150,000. There were so many people interested in that property that people were putting in escalation clauses with their offer. An escalation clause says that I'm willing to pay $2,500, $5,000 above the highest bid, up to $200,000, right? So if somebody comes in and say, I'll pay you $150,000, in the offer that I give to the person that's selling their home, it says, I'll pay $5,000 above that $50,000. And if somebody comes in and they'll pay $52,000, I'll pay $5,000 above that $52,000, all the way up to $200,000 on a $50,000 home. So a year ago, less than a year ago, a house that got listed for $150,000 could sell for $170,000 easy. That's how little inventory and how many people were fighting over that one property. It's not that bad anymore. It's not that bad. And I think our area is kind of one of the areas where that's still kind of the case, right? In a lot of areas in the United States, inventory is starting to loosen up because of the interest rates, because people are getting unemployed, because of all of that. But in our area, still, if you have a decent property and you list it on the market, there might be 2 or 3 people still willing to battle over it. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So Cliff, on your end, you said you've been still doing the marketing and stuff. Have you been changing up the approach, how you approach houses?
Yeah, so it really depends on what the marketplace is doing and what they're paying attention to. So that's what I look at. And it also, segment wise, it's who am I segmenting towards this? So I'm not really focused on houses per se. I'm focused on mid-level entrepreneurs, so those who are making between 6 and 7 figure. And I'm also focusing in on mid-level managers, executives. I just started doing that though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people were doing postcards for a while, but I feel like, people were filtering the homes based off of, oh, well, I'm not going to do anything less than 300,000 and I'll shoot anything up to $1 million. And I think because everybody's just like, oh, well, hey, I don't want the cheapest home. I don't want the cheapest home. You find yourself in that rat race again, where you're just like, hey, everybody's targeting the same home. So now it comes down to whose postcard looks as good as it can look.
Well, I'll give the only insight I have with that. I have one guy who's targeting $1 million or more homes.
Mm-hmm.
He got in there from knowing someone, because those aren't people who are going to go to Google and check to see. They're going to go to Inside Source. And that's one thing that I noticed. Like, if you're looking to get in with those bigger homes specifically, you have to know someone who can give a good word to you, because they're not going to find you off of, and even to Some of those are gated communities specifically, so it's going to be really, really hard to get in mailers and things of that nature.
Have you seen, Chris, a lot of marketing coming your way from movers trying to just spread the word so that you can spread the word to your clients?
I don't. I don't. I don't. I've been in this. I've been in real estate since I've been here as an investor and as a real estate broker. And I don't think an advertisement for a mover has ever come across my desk. I get
And
advertisements
where are
for.
you at, Chris?
I'm in upstate New York. I'm in Utica, New York,
Okay.
and it's basically the Mohawk Valley. It's Utica, New Hartford, Whitesboro, Whitestown, Yorkville, Mohawk Valley kind of area, and it's an interesting market. It's an interesting market, but I have not seen an advertisement for moving come across my desk. Home inspectors, people want to sell all. People think real estate people have this money. They want to sell you leads. They want to sell. They want to sell you. They want to sell you home inspections. They want to do. It's just a plethora of just stuff people want to sell real estate agents. But I have not. I'm thinking about it now. I haven't seen any, marketing from moving companies.
Well, I know that there's a company, I know Cliff, you were at one point in time going to use them called Move Soon, who was,
They work
gonna,
on connecting with real estate agents to movers
yeah.
specifically. Yeah. Mhm.
So,
That would be a good connection to make. I think that would be a good connection to make.
I think so too. Yeah. Like I saw how they were approaching the marketplace. I thought it was absolutely genius.
yeah, I haven't heard or seen from them in a while, but
Yeah.
assuming that,
I haven't either.
some people come out on fire and then next thing you know, they're kind of like, off the grid.
But the thing about this market is that it's the median income is low. The median income for this area is low. It may be changing slowly, but I think the median income is like $60,000. So most people who figure out how to buy a home or do any type of moving really, they rent a truck and they get it done. It's
Yeah, because moving is expensive.
Yeah.
yeah, moving is
Yeah.
expensive. We have a couple of high end areas like Whitestown and New Hartford, where you could really market to, and you may be able to get people who are going to pay a moving company to move their things. But in general, the median income it may be moving towards 80 now, but I heard maybe not too long ago the median income is probably about $60,000 out here.
Oh, so
So
you just gonna
So
call us?
I actually got a thought for you guys. I'd love your insights on this because the move is actually the front end of business. And if you created a front end with a back end, with a proper back end, could you potentially charge cheaper for a move to set them up for new packages with like restaurants and home remodel, roof, things like that? Like I'm kind of thinking, is there a way to make it work with moving being the front end and turning something else into the back end? Because one thing that I've noticed with movers, generally speaking, I'm not talking about all movers, but movers generally speaking treat it as a one and done thing. And in treating it as such, I personally think they're leaving a lot of money on the table.
yeah, there's some value to be added. There's some value add. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think we've talked before. There's home cleaning services like you mentioned. We offered snow removal at one point in time for people. So basically we look to fit the seasons in New York. Hey, what are you doing in the winter? What are you doing in the summer? Obviously, summer you're focused on moving. Spring and fall. Okay, hey, what are some things you could be doing? Whether it's landscape stuff like you mentioned, or outsourcing that if you don't know how to blow leaves with a leaf blower.
Mm-hmm. I really think you're hitting on something, Dwight, because when I lived downstate. In fact, my brother and I, when we were young people and we lived home, we literally could make $150, $200 on a snow day. Literally, we
Mm,
could make $150, $200 on a snow day.
mhm.
And once I moved up here, there is nobody knocks on your door and says, "Hey, brother, can I shovel your snow?" And I know this is a small thing, but you know how valuable it would be if when we had a heavy snow, if people would come around and actually deal with that. People need snow. I remember I was doing some work for a woman in New Hartford, and
Yeah.
it was we must have had a 2 feet of snow, and people had to get that snow shoveled off their roofs because it was too heavy for their roofs, you know. And snow is a come and go kind of thing, but
Hmm.
if people knew that that would be something, if you're a moving company, and that's a call you can make when you need assistance with your snow, or that's a call you can make when you need your your leaves raked. I paid a young man $80 to rake my yard um, this season, this fall. If people knew that leaf breaking is something that you could call the moving company for, you know, I mean, if
That
you
that
came, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
if
that could be a really cool almost like a membership too, because I know moving gets slower in the wintertime.
mhm.
Hmm.
And so if you created that's really cool. Like if you created some sort of membership and it's unique to the marketplace for sure.
Mhm.
And they talked about gift baskets. They talked about it for several years where they're like, oh, if a new person is moving into their new house or home, having a welcome kit. We're like, well,
Hmm.
hey, here's some of the attractions in the area.
Here's some of
Here's
the
some of
things we
this.
do. Here's some of the things we
Hmm.
do. I have a
Hmm.
guy. So I do, as a part of my real estate company, I do property management. A, I have probably too many clients that I manage property for, who people who live in California, people who live downstate, even in New York City, who own property in the area, and I manage property for them. So I hire a lot of people who do work on properties, like people who cut grass, people who plow driveways, that type of thing. I had a guy one time that was cutting my grass, and he would come and he would cut my grass, and there would be shrubbery that needed to be cut down, right? And around the back needed to be cleaned up and weed whacked. And I would have to go to the property and say, "You're cutting grass and you have all this equipment. Don't you know that it would be an upcharge if you came to me and said, those hedges and those bushes look like really bad in front of your property? Would you like me to cut that down and make that look neat? That's an extra $150 for you."
Yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
value added is
Yeah.
serious, like, and people don't know where to find uh people that do this stuff for them. So if you upfront, you're a moving person, you go, you know what, I got a list of people that I could provide that can do services for you.
Yeah.
And you put that list of things that you have people that you can call to get that done for them, even if you don't do it yourself. You can get something on the back end from it.
Gotcha,
I think
gotcha.
that's a great
Yeah.
idea. I think that's a great idea, Cliff. I think, yeah, value added is serious. People don't
So,
even realize.
so we got some
Yeah.
comments. Ryan Patrick said, good morning, y'all. What up, Cliff?
Hey,
Um,
what's up, Ryan?
and then
Love and light, brother.
Oscar Ramirez said, can't blow leaves here in Arizona.
Well, here's the beauty of the game. And when we're talking about microcosmic principles, it has nothing to do with blowing of the leaves. It's about solving problems.
Mm.
So instead of, and I'm not attacking you, Oscar, by any means, so I hope you don't take it as such. But when we look at it, it's not, oh, well, I can't do snow here. It's what can I do here for my people?
Gotcha. So what's some recommendations you were mentioned for like a hot area like Arizona?
I don't know. I would actually have to think through that one. Yeah, I would
How
have to
about
think through that. There's something with we do have monsoon season, so that's one challenge. We tend to need battery replacement because of the heat, and we also need windshield replacement, windshield wiper replacement, because those break down pretty quickly because of the heat.
Gotcha. Oscar said, what about a membership for moving services, like a monthly charge, like a Netflix or something?
Yeah, yeah. I think it just, we have to package and bundle it right. Because people are always, I was like, oh, this is so simple. Everyone wants a deal. And one person said, this was actually from Myron Golden, if we each had $100,000 and I gave Chris $100,000 and then he gave you $100,000 and then you gave it back to me and we're just going back and forth, we're no richer because of it. People exchange their money because what service is being provided is more than the money that they're giving. And so it's up to us to get creative and say, what would they exchange their money for?
Gotcha.
I
I know
wonder
that. Go ahead.
I wonder if the moving industry is something. You know, I have to take 21 hours of, in order to keep my real estate license, I have to take 21 hours of continuing education. And at one point, I was paying $150, $200 for 7 hours of education here. You know, before I can renew my license, I have to have this 20. It's now 22 and a half, actually. And you pay a lot of money to get those hours in so that you can renew your license. I found a company called Manfred. Oh, I don't know if I should be saying names of companies, but anyway.
Yeah. As long as you don't talk bad about them, you're good.
No, it's a good thing because they charge me $13.90 a month, and they get people to come and take classes with them. I pay $13.90 a month every month, and I can take any class I want. All those $200, 150 classes that I had to pay all of that money for, they have people that come in and teach those classes, and they have everybody is a member, and they're paying $13.90 a month. So they're making a ton of money. I haven't taken any of my classes yet, and my license renewal is coming up. And I know I got to get in there and jam for those classes, but I know I don't have to worry about finding or coming up with the $150, $200, $300 per class, because I've been paying throughout the year $13.90.
Yeah, no, that's a thing now. I know with the moving industry, I have an accountant company that I work with, and accountant services are like, oh well, hey, anytime you really need a consultation cost similar to like an attorney, you pay about $150 an hour or more. And I think my recent attorney, I think it was like $250. So it was like, a lot of these people are doing subscriptions now where they're charging, like for me, I was paying about $30 a month for my accounting services. And pretty much it's like maybe you get a once a month consultation, or you can get more, but it's whenever you need it. You're not going to need consultation all the time, but you're going to be hesitant to pay that $150 an hour just because you might say, oh, whatever I got to talk about ain't that important.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's creating that perfect win-win. I go back to Oscar's membership. So I used to be a personal trainer. Oh my goodness, they're making so much money on people who don't go to the gym. It's the craziest thing to me. It's the craziest thing to me to know that 70+% of people are paying money month to month, not going to the gym, knowing that I'll go to the gym when I want to go to the gym.
No, I just dropped the trainer. I think I was paying a trainer 8 sessions. I was paying $150. I started out paying $179, but I was paying $150 for 8 sessions for a trainer. I went, of course, but at some point I said, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a habit now, and I know this routine. I know these exercises. Why am I still paying this person, this level of money when I can join a gym now?" And get in there and do it. But that still, the gym is collecting $19 a month, So the subscription thing is good. And even if people are not using the service, you're collecting the money.
I think Oscar, you're definitely onto something. If there is a way where we could do a subscription where, I don't know, because moving is obviously a one-time cost. You don't want somebody paying that type of money, and and most people only move,
every 7 years.
So you don't want to be charging them, membership where it's like, oh well, hey, once you move with us, we're going to stamp your card like a one of those milk cards, And any and every time you move with us, the move is going to get cheaper. You know, I don't think that'll work, but I think you're on to something. If you can
But
maybe
but that
do,
but that's also where the values, the value services, the service values come in. So if you say, oh, if you remember, not only will you get a really cut rate on your moving, but if you need power washing, if you need your sidewalk power washed or your home power washed or around your pool power washed, um,
Yeah.
the normal person will pay $300 to get this thing power washed, but because you remember, we'll get somebody in there for you because you've been paying this membership every month to do that power washing for $80. You know,
Give them that luxury fill. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
or
I
you could
like that.
probably, or you could probably do that milk card thing. I'm still on it. You can still probably do that where you kind of like open your network where you're like, well, hey, you know what? Maybe you won't move, but you know somebody else that would move. And anytime you send somebody our way that we move, the move maybe gets cheaper and cheaper, for the next person. Something along that network where basically it almost forces the customer to open up to
Yeah.
to basically sharing their network with you, which then lowers your marketing cost because they know that their friends and family is using the service that they loved to use when they first started moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of
referral
interesting
system
stuff.
type. Mhm.
So I don't know. I know we were doing a $50, I think $50 to $75 referral fees, transferable fees. Where basically once the customer moved, if they gave us a 5-star, we'll give them a certificate and they can either use it for storage services or they could use it for junk removal services. And then if they wanted to transfer it over to somebody else that needed maybe moving services, that person would get like $75, $75 rebate on their services or so like that. So I don't know. I guess you got want to think outside the box, especially if you're in those hotter states. I know like Phil, he's in Florida where it's 80 degrees in January, so you ain't got to worry about no snow. Cliff in the desert in Arizona,
Yep.
so he ain't worried
Yeah,
about no
yeah.
snow or water.
So we have all 4 seasons out here
Yes.
where we are. We get all 4 seasons. So
I gotta say, respect, guys. I've been in the snow. I'm good.
Yeah.
mhm.
I'm telling you, you got to come up here for the winter before the winter's over so we can go skiing.
Definitely, yeah, definitely not doing that. It's gonna be in the summer though. I'll see you
Yeah.
then.
You're right, Cliff. I actually love the area. I think when we moved here, our kids were young, and it was the best place to raise children. It's a
Nice.
really nice area. It's beautiful. But every winter I go, why am I here?
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I think that, why am I here?
And I know you don't. I know you're not a fan of heat, Chris, but you never thought about the South, right?
Yeah, I have relatives, most of us have relatives out there. I've been to New Orleans a few times. Actually, I stayed in Slidell, Louisiana for a couple of years when I was younger. I'm not, unless I'm on an island or someplace close to the ocean, downstate when we were in Long Island it was good because in the summers last longer and we were close to an ocean. But I don't know if that I could be hot year round. Whatever I do, I'm not that person. I get hot fast and I sweat a lot, and I'm kind of just as uncomfortable being really hot all the time as I am being really cold all the time. So,
I hear that.
Gotcha.
but up here in the Northeast like this, it's we have long winters. So
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It snowed.
Chris, how many kids do you have?
2, I have 2.
How old?
Yeah. They're grown. My daughter is 29 and my son is 27.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a 7 and a 3-year-old. I'm going through the growing process right now.
Oh
Very
yeah,
fun.
yeah. These are the good times. These are the good
Mhm.
times. The 3 and 7 are good ages. So you have a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
it's a lot of fun.
I'm sure people tell you that all the time. But once you get the teenage years get a little rough, and then once they
Yeah.
get grown, it gets good again.
I've heard when they become teenagers, they think they know more than you. So
They know
I'm ready for it.
Mhm. They know
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
So no, other than that, yeah. So we've been going through a lot today on this show. We're talking about real estate and investment. I guess from your experience, if someone wanted to invest into real estate, Chris, like how would they make their first move?
Well, I think the most important thing that you can do is to is get your credit straight. And a lot of people don't realize that, how important having a decent credit score is. Get your credit straight. Unless you're making big time money and you can do some cash deals. All right. If you can do some cash deals, that's the best way to go. But leverage is probably the greatest thing, that ever been created. Because if you got $80,000, you can buy two, maybe three properties if you have $80,000 over a period of time. But if you put all that $80,000 into buying one property, what's this guy's name? Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, he doesn't believe in having any debt. I think I recently heard him say he's got $60 million worth of real estate and he's never taken out a loan for any of them. He saved up the money that he needed to buy his first property and he's been buying properties with cash ever since. I don't think that's a great strategy as far as real estate is concerned. I think you should leverage. So your credit is really important. That's my long-winded way of saying that having a decent credit score is a good thing. And then save up some money, save up $30,000, $40,000. And it doesn't even really have to be that much. I mean, you can put a $10,000 down payment on the right investment property, a $20,000 down payment on the right investment property. And I always try to encourage young people. My son just bought a home and he purchased a home that he loves in the area that he wants to be in, that he likes, him and his wife. I've always tried to encourage him to buy a 2-family for your first home, or a 3-family for your first home, or a 4-family for your first home, right? So I'm of the school, you don't need to be so comfortable as a young person. Live in one of your apartments and let the other apartment pay your mortgage, right? And that way you can build up the money that you need to buy your next property. So I think living in a multifamily and having your tenants pay your mortgage, so credit, a little savings so you can purchase the first home, buy a multifamily, with an FHA, first time home buyer, you can buy up to 4 units. You can buy up to 4 units with an FHA. So if you buy yourself your first home is a 4-unit, a lot of people may not know how to deal with that or don't want to deal with that. Obviously my son didn't. But if you spend your first savings on a 4-unit property and let those people pay your mortgage, you'll be fast tracking your way to buying your next property.
Gotcha.
I wish I would have known you in my 20s, Chris. It would have been nice.
Yeah. A lot of people said, I wish I would have known me in my 20s.
So Robert said wholesaling is a good entry level into real estate if you don't have the credit or money. So I'm not sure.
I think wholesaling is a great thing if you have the aptitude for it. I've known about wholesaling for many years of my life, but it's just not a thing that I do. People have a different propensity to be able to do different types of things. And my mind doesn't work around the wholesaling type of thing. I think if you're a salesperson, wholesaling can be a good way to break into the real estate market and to build up some money to do other types of investment fast. But I'm not that guy. It depends on your personality.
What about this Airbnb stuff that's been going on where, people are renting out their houses, making money weekly?
Like I said, I do a lot of property management for people, and I have a construction background. I have a pretty decent construction background. I'm really good. I have a finance background. I actually worked on Wall Street for a few years, and I have an undergrad degree in finance. I think you need to wear a lot of hats to be able to manage property. You have to understand what repairs are supposed to look like when you manage property. You have to understand what the cost of having a repair is, and so when you buy a property, you should probably manage that property yourself for a year or two, even if you are going to get a property manager, so you understand what's all involved. And the Airbnbs are, people don't realize that every time somebody comes in that property and leaves that property, somebody's got to be there to clean it. People tear up your stuff. People tear your stuff up. They get in there, and you go in there, and then you got to do repairs. The cost there, you can make money. Listen, I don't speak down on anything, because you can make money doing Airbnbs, but a lot of people don't understand what they're getting themselves into when they go into the Airbnb thing, especially if they're not living in the area where they own the property, where they can take care of what needs to be taken care of as people go in and out of the property. But now I think there's something going on with the Airbnbs. States are starting to make laws around preventing people from using their property in residential areas for Airbnb. So the regulations are starting to get kind of choppy too. So watch out for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the language that Chris is speaking. I actually got this from Brendan Bouchard, and he says, talk about what are your terms? How much time does it take? Energy, resources, how much money do you make? And how much does it affect your sanity?
Mm-hmm. Louis Mazzaro was big on that, where he tell you basically to figure out what your value is worth. And there was a formula behind it that I can't remember right now, but it was a formula behind it to basically determine what your hourly rate should be worth based on your time worth. But Verna said do corporate housing and traveling nurses. So I know traveling nurses is definitely a paying field.
What about the traveling nurses?
Like it's definitely a lucrative field.
Renting to them or being a traveling nurse?
Oh, being a traveling nurse.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so
who mentioned the traveling nurses, by the way?
Verna.
Who?
Verna.
Oh, okay. I have to say what's up to him because that's another segment. I'm not playing with it, but I have one of my clients who's getting into traveling nurses specifically. So I'm curious how much he knows about them.
Okay, so no, what he meant, I guess, is renting to them because they're not going to be there that long. So like short term.
Well, yeah. The thing about traveling nurses, I had a traveling nurse rent a property of mine. She came to Utica. This has been a couple of years ago. She came to Utica. She said to me, listen, I'm a traveling nurse and I just need the apartment for 6 months or whatever, how long. This woman paid a couple of months rent in advance. She took excellent care of the property. 6 months went by. She met a man. They got married. They had a baby. They invited my wife and I to their wedding. And all that time, she stayed in my property and took really good care of it and paid her rent. So you never know what's going to happen with traveling nurses, but worst case scenario is they make good money and they'll pay their rent. And normally, you can evaluate a tenant, you can check their credit, you can check their work background, you can do a background check, all of that. The one thing you can't know about a tenant is if they're going to tear your place up and treat it nasty, and you're going to end up having to do a lot of work when they move out. My experience with traveling nurses is even if they stay for 6 months, they take good care of your property, and they pay their rent because they make good money. So, traveling nurses.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah,
yeah.
No, I'll definitely one of these in years I'll get into real estate, but the market is definitely, I don't know. I don't know. I think I want to, I always think bigger than smaller. So I know that you and I talked, Chris, where I thought about getting a small multi-unit and working my way up. I think I've always just been fascinated with multi-units.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Yeah. You have, at least if you get 4, you can have at least maybe 2 people take care of your mortgage and one person kind of be in profit, or maybe you live in the 4th unit.
I have a 4-unit where my mother-in-law lives. That 4-unit over the years that I've owned it has appreciated in value. The tenants always paid the mortgage and I still made a profit, right? And I took a little money out of it one time, and I'm still making, at this point, after about 15, 16 years of owning the property, I'm still making a profit, and I took a little bit of money out of that property. So you know, it's really the way to go. If you get a multi-unit and start building from there, just get yourself as many units as many unit property as you can for your first property. So like I said to Cliff, I wish I knew me 20 years ago. So I did what my son did. My wife and I, we found a house in a neighborhood we wanted to live in that we loved, and we looked at a bunch of houses, and we walked into the house that we wanted, and we were like, oh, this is our house, and that's what we purchased. But we didn't know. We were young people, and we had one baby. We had a arm baby and another one at that time, and we were like, yes. But if I knew me 20 years ago, I would have bought that. As a matter of fact, I had an old guy offer to sell me a multi-unit property when I was working on Wall Street, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do with that? I mean, I live close by the property, and I'm looking at the property going, why would I want to get involved with that crap? So, you live and you learn.
Live and learn. That's the truth.
Gotcha. So one person told me an idea was, especially when I was back in Morrisville, there was a college, they call it College Hill. They had approximately 4 units per area. And it was like 3 or 4 bedrooms per apartment. And they were renting out to college students. And they said that, that was a really, really great investment because, hey, college students are only going to be there for half a year. You make so much money from doing that. And because you're renting out by the room versus a whole suite,
Well, let me say this about that. I manage property right now for some people that live in Long Island. And the first properties that they bought two properties with 2 apartments each. Each property had 3 bedrooms. Each apartment had 3 bedrooms, and she rented to college students. Now, people can make that work. You can make it work, but I manage that property for them, right? And we have Utica College, we have Mohawk Valley Community College, we have Pratt, we have SUNY Tech. So there's a lot of college students here, but you put 3 students in one apartment, they need to know each other, right? It's very difficult. They need to know each other. And so now say you could get $700 for that apartment if you rented it to a family. Now you're making $900 because you charge each student $300. But one of those students are going to graduate. All the students knew each other when they moved in. One's going to graduate. Now you're only making $6 because one left because they graduated, right? And now you got to find another student, but it's mid-semester, right? And they've already established their housing situation. So getting another student in there, in the beginning or the end of the year when everybody's already established in the situation, plus getting someone that's going to get along or that you can get into that apartment in a room with the students that already know each other, that's established in there. It's a very difficult thing to transitioning. In the end, basically, my long-winded way of saying that in the end, you deal with a whole lot more hassle, and a lot of times you make the same or less money. Insurance is higher when you rent into to students. If you disclose that you rented to students, your insurance company is going to charge you more money. And it's in the end, you deal with a whole lot more hassle renting to college students, and you usually end up making the same amount of money or less. Because of the rotations and the hassle that you have to deal with,
Gotcha. All right, everybody. So we are at the top of the hour. Amazing show. Thank you, Chris, for hopping in, letting us know about the market. Thank you, Cliff, for hopping on, doing your thing, motivational coaching.
Appreciate you both.
I
Take us
enjoyed
home.
it. I've seen you on shows before, Cliff. I enjoyed finally meeting you in person. Well, not in person, but over the Zoom.
Yeah,
And
thank you, Chris.
yeah, I
No,
love your
100%.
insights. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you, thank you.
Cliff, if you
Yeah, it
want
was
to
a
take us
pleasure,
home.
and I do want to thank the audience for engaging with us too. That was awesome.
Definitely. Cliff, take us home.
All right, so let's keep crushing it. I'm going to steal from Brendan Bouchard again because it's the absolute best. Know what your terms are: your time, your energy, your resources, how much money you're making, and most of all, your sanity. Are you willing to live in the snow?
Can you
All right,
handle it?
y'all.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Y'all take care. Later.
All
Okay.
right, guys, have a
Later.
great one. Take
You
care.
too.